It is 2 minutes past the hour, so we will go ahead and get started. I want to thank you for joining us for our webinar on the future of microprocessing, featuring our partnership with Intel. We have Chris O'Malley and Marcos Silvas on the webinar with us to talk about Intel and their microprocessors. Before we get started, though, I would like to share with you a little bit about Newline as a company if you are not familiar with us. At Newline, we focus on two main things with all of our products. The first is that we want to be easy to use. We want our end users to be able to walk up to our panels, select a button that is going to take you directly to where they need to go. There's really going to be no guesswork as what you're going to be able to do on our panel. We also focus on being non-proprietary. We like to play with everyone, so that means if you're using any type of software or program, you're going to be able to use those on our panels. Our panels are also completely integrated solutions. You do not have to have a computer to use our panels. However, you can for added functionality. We have panels that have integrated video conferencing equipment, so they have cameras and microphones built in, as well as the option to have a built-in computer. A major focus with us at Newline is that we really care about our support and training. We don't think that you're really getting your value unless you have training, so you're actually able to use your panels. So we provide free training for the lifetime of the product. This can be on-site as well as webinar-based training. Again, there's no limit to the number of years or times that we will provide support and training to you. We also have a couple of things that make Newline a little bit different than some of the other manufacturers out there for panels. The first is the fact that we are the manufacturer. So this gives us full control over our products as well as our inventory. We have 3 warehouses across the country. We have one based here in the Dallas area, as well as 2 more on the East and the West Coast. What that means for all of our end users is that we have our panels full of inventory. So when anyone purchases a panel with Newline, you could expect to receive it in a few days. We also have our own in-house technical support that's based here in Dallas as well. Anytime a user calls or emails our support team, they're going to get an actual person that is going to answer the call, ask what panel they have, and provide support. If by chance there's a rare instance in which the panel has a manufacturer's defect, you have a 3 or 5 year advanced replacement warranty, which means based on some troubleshooting, we can send you a brand new unit. Lastly, all of our panels have a slot or an OPS slot. This allows for you to have an onboard computer to go in the back of your panel so you can make your panel and your computer an all-in-one solution. All of those onboard computers have an Intel chip. This allows for efficient, reliable multitasking, as well as the chip has an integrated graphics card, which allows for clear audio and video quality on your display. Intel has proven time and again that they are the best option for microprocessors, and that is why we have chosen here at Newline to work with Intel now and for our future OPS releases. That is about the extent of my knowledge on microprocessors, so I'm going to go ahead and pass this off to Chris O'Malley as well as Marcos Silva with Intel.
Alrighty, thank you, Ellen. Let me, I'm going to share my screen here in a second. Hopefully this was going to work for everybody. And can you see it now?
I can.
Alrighty, so Ellen and everyone from Newline, thank you very much for the opportunity to present here today. To be honest, my wife thanks you also because this gave me an excuse, and I'm on video here, to actually get out of my 10-year-old ratty Notre Dame t-shirt and ball cap. So I actually put on a collared shirt today, so I was applauded by my wife this morning. In typical Zoom fashion that everyone's experienced over the last few weeks, my dog is sitting at my feet here. I told the kids to keep her upstairs, but somehow she has made it down. So if there's an interruption, I apologize. So anyway, so brief background on me. I'm a marketing director in what we call the Internet of Things division at Intel. I've been doing this for 15 years or so in a variety of different segments. Also joining me today is Marco Silva. He's the technical person on our team. I like to say that I'm here for my good looks and charming personality, and Marcos is here for his brain. There's a reason he's not on video right now. So anyways, I just want to make that clear. Few other things for the Newline folks. I'm a recovering attorney, so I'm used to being interrupted by judges or anybody else who wants to interrupt. So from a Q&A standpoint, you could hold them till the end. You can interrupt me at any point in time. It does not bother me in the least bit. And the only other caveat is that in typical Intel fashion, I'm a bit of a gadget guy and a data nerd. So I allow myself 1 or 2 tangents per presentation. So if I start going off into a what we call a rat hole, just give me a little latitude for a second. That's what keeps me interested and motivated. And with that, I think I can proceed to a kind of a brief summary of what we're going to talk about here. That would help if the slide would actually advance. Well, that's perfect. All right, I guess everyone can hear me, but I'm going to have to, there we go, it's working now. So anyway, I'm going to give a brief background on Intel. I'll call it a commercial. It's not very long, but it's just going to provide some insight on the Intel. A little bit of the silicon evolution, how it's progressed. This is primarily how compute has progressed over the years. And then, an intro on why we focus on display technology. It seems an odd focus for Intel, but when I go through some of the data on this, you'll see why we focus on display technology is absolutely one of the most important things right now and going forward into the future. And then I want to discuss on kind of the crux of the presentation over Intel plus Newline technology in a flat panel display, and how the common features and functionalities on your display are enhanced and brought about actually by the Intel technology. And then we'll have time for a brief Q&A after that. So with that is our standard, this is a mission statement of Intel. And to be truthful, we're all nerdy technology guys. So we take this to heart. Our purpose is to create world-changing technology that enriches the lives of every single person on Earth. And we don't do that in isolation. We can't do that in isolation. We do that by partnering by industry leaders such as Newline. Newline's a clear leader in display technology. That's important to us. So we select them. We partner with Newline worldwide, whether it be in India, whether it be in Latin America, the US, all throughout Europe, within China, we partner with Newline. So they're a global company that we partner everywhere with and work very closely with them from the development of all their panels and how to best use Intel technology. So the other thing, I'm sure some of you are aware, but we are a large company. We have massive capital investments. So from a simple fabrication plant where we manufacture our plants costs over $10 billion to make. That counts tooling and the actual structure itself. For those of you that are afraid of COVID, the best place to hide out would actually be in an Intel factory. Our standard clean room is well over 1,000 times more clean than a typical operating room. The air is recirculated in less than 10 seconds. So there's absolutely no danger of getting COVID in a factory at Intel. Super clean. In addition to the capital investments for our factories, we also have over $13 billion in research and development. And that's how we continue to bring technology forward on the cadence that we've been known for in the past. So from a scale standpoint, I'm not going to focus on this, but we're a massive company. We have partners everywhere. But from just a few things, one of the things is that in the bottom right-hand corner, you'll note, we are the single, it was just released recently, we are the single largest purchaser of green power in 2019. And we're going to be for that in 2020 as well. So for renewable for us, it's wind, it's solar, it's hydro, things like that. And we're also the #1 company in the world for mineral ranking. So all of the minerals that go into an Intel processor are vetted for proper sustainable practices and human rights areas. We were actually one of the people that started this entire supply chain methodology. So it's a big part of what we do. When we do that, we always look for our partners as well. We audit with partners to make sure that they're following similar standards as well. And then, starting my tech nerdy pages, Intel is not just the silicon. We have massive amounts of technology that goes into the process and the packaging of that. Of course, the x86 architecture, which is where you get most of the benefits from, but memory is critical to your performance. We're devoted to memory as well. Interconnect technology. both within chip and within data centers. We focus on that. Security is becoming, in this world of data, is becoming vitally important. We spend an inordinate amount of money on how do we secure all of this data, how do we secure your chip, and how do we secure the platforms that you run on ours. And then lastly, software. We're known as a manufacturing company, we're known as a hardware company, but we're actually one of these very largest software companies in the entire world. We build all of the base level, whether it be BIOS software, firmware, things like that. We build software on top of our hardware building blocks such that it's easy for software vendors, many of whom are partners with Newline, to build innovative and futuristic software solutions. That software is one of the key differentiators for Intel versus some of the other hardware companies that just do provide you hardware. We provide a whole software base, and we enable thousands, hundreds of thousands of software vendors to extract the value out of Intel hardware. This one, I'll just go brief. So we're not just a PC-focused company anymore. We have a variety of platforms. Newline focuses on the platform products, the Core i3, the i5, and the i7. We'd love them to purchase everywhere, but your displays might start to get a little too expensive for you, but we're always lobbying for that. So we'll see what we can do in a few years. So with that said, I want to get to where most people think of Intel and where the compute has really changed over the years. So if you look at, when the transistor on a silicon was started in 1958, you had about 2 transistors, and they were about a ½ inch in length. Now in our 2018 processor, and by the way, we don't release this information anymore, we had about 7 billion transistors, and we have 14 nanometer is the lithography that we build these solutions on. So if you look at it from a cost standpoint, it was $1 per transistor in 1971. I don't even know how many zeros in there, but it's infinitely, infinitely cheaper now. Sometimes it helps from an analogy because these are a lot of numbers. So if you looked at a pinhead, we could put about almost 250 million transistors on the top of a pinhead. Massive. If you look at the processor improvement, that's a 27 billion fold improvement over the last 47 years. Very significant. Another analogy that just kind of brings home what's happening here is if you look at the Apollo 11, all of the compute within the Apollo 11 in the guidance system, processing power today in your standard iPhone, a 2-year-old iPhone, is going to be about 100,000 times more than that. Your standard local or random access memory, 1 million times more today on a typical phone, 7 million times more storage, long-term storage, and what we call ROM storage. The thought process that I like to think about this is, rather than just looking in the past, what we are going for is that the cost of a transistor, the cost of compute is getting cheaper every single year. In 2022, we'll be on 7 nanometers. So in that far right where it's 14, we'll be on 7 nanometers. So we're going to double the compute power in just a mere 24 months. As that happens, you have to start to think of compute as essentially free. And when you think of compute as essentially free, you can add it to everything. You make intelligent devices. That's exactly what we do with the display. We're adding compute to a display and making it an intelligent device. Think about that with everything, and that's what's happening to the world. That's why you're seeing so many dramatic changes in the compute from the world. It's that infinite improvement in getting everything cheaper to make compute cheaper. For those worried about how this compares to a human brain, just to let you know, a human brain is about 100 billion neurons and 300 trillion connections. So we're still a ways to go before we reach the human brain. So don't be too worried just yet. So anyways, from a value proposition standpoint, in the beginning and for the first, 80% of Intel's existence, we focused entirely on silicon innovation. That was really what we did. It was only silicon. In the last few years, we've moved to more a product category. So that picture in the middle there, how do we improve touch latency on a display? How do we improve graphics? How do we improve video on a display? That's what we're showing there. Today, what we're doing is actually focusing on vertical innovation. So what I'm showing you there is how do we improve an experience in a classroom? How do we improve the experience in a corporate office space? And again, as I referenced in the first slide, we can't do this in isolation. We have to partner with leaders like Newline. So we partner with Newline on how do we make display technology work in a classroom? How do we make it easy? How do we make it an open platform? And not just that, how do we record things better? How do we use video better in a classroom? We partner with them because we need that to understand how to make it better. And the absolute same thing holds true in the vertical innovation as well. For the corporate collaboration as well. Absolutely critical for us. So with that said, I'm going to move in kind of the next step. One of the questions that people always have is, why is Intel so focused on display technology? Why are you so focused on video? And it actually makes sense if you think about it. So 90% of the information transferred to the brain, the human brain, is visual information. What's kind of an interesting anecdote, if you look at all of the data that we as humans are producing today, it's massive amounts. It's 44 zettabytes in 2020, which is an insanely high number. But 85% of that is video information, and it's trending towards 90%. So it's kind of interesting that all the data we're creating, 90% is visual. The same exact thing holds true for the brain. Visual is everything when it comes to the brain. We always talk about a picture is worth 1,000 words. It turns out that it's actually worth a heck of a lot more than that. So here's again, to relate to that point, 65% of people were visual learners. Visuals are processed 60,000 times faster than text, and the human eye can register 36,000 visual messages an hour. We are visual machines. That's what we do. This is why we focus on visual at Intel. It's critical to everything we do in the future. It's critical to how we learn. It's critical how do we interrelate with everybody. So I want to go kind of to an education example and kind of a life example as we go forward here. So this is just a picture, this is the world we live in today. I call it, we live in a world of screens, whether it be children, looking at a cell phone on social media, whether it be a typical teenager's gaming platform, whether it be walking through a street, Times Square with massive digital signage everywhere, working in a factory, or even navigating through an airport. Visual displays are everywhere. Interactive displays are everywhere. This is how we function as a population. This is how children have been raised. I always think about it, my children, when they first looked at a TV, a giant big screen TV, the first thing to do is walk up to it and try to touch it. The idea of interactivity is so embedded with them. When I see a TV, I never think about touching it. But children nowadays, they're digital natives. They assume touch displays for everything. It's part of what they have, and they're going to expect it as they go forward. So think about that from this mindset. We live in this world of screens, and you're a child, and then you go to school, and here's what you get. Gee, no wonder we lose the children. That's why we consider the display is so dramatically important. Actually, one comment here, I want to point out that I'm actually pointing, if you can see me. That whiteboard there, a Newline display has at least 10 billion times more compute power than that whiteboard does there. A lot more functionality in the Newline display. But anyway, that's the point I'm trying to make here from an education standpoint. This is important in education, but the same thing holds. We're all people who go to conference rooms in a corporation. The same thing holds true in a corporate conference room. Visual aids are what we live by. It's what we focus on. And right here is a prime example. We've done research in a classroom. The same holds true for corporate office. Visual aids improve classroom learning up to 400%. 100% of students have said visual and video actually improves their ability to learn. We know this is important. It's absolutely critical, and we've got to focus on this area. So that's, I just want to get that across. That's why it's important to Intel. That's why it's important to Newline, and that's why we're driving all of these advancements. So with that, I'd like to move a little bit towards Newline right now. So this is a typical Newline panel. I wish I had this background actually behind me right now instead of my basement right now, but I wasn't able to get that to work. But if I think of the panel as the display, and what you're getting is the hub, what you're getting with that is you're getting a whiteboard. You're getting the ability to screen share. So whether it be your computer, you can share it on the big screen, or multiple screens at the same time. It's a touch screen. It's a computer. So all the functionalities of compute you get, plus you get all these peripherals. And to be frank, I should apologize to Newline because I kind of gave you basic audio and video peripherals there. But the microphone array, the video capabilities of a Newline display is pretty significant. It's not just a basic computer put there. There's a lot of technology that goes into making the audio better and to making the video better. So all of that is encapsulated in the simple display, and it's there for you. You could, of course, build this with separate USB, speakers, separate USB cameras, separate USB microphones, but then you're going to have to work to make everything work together. You're going to have to deal with noise and echo cancellation and all these other things. Newline does all of this in the box. And on top of that, when you add this compute, you get all of these other features that are popping up. There's 3D content for graphics, very important. The streaming of video, annotation. So think of voice to text note taking, augmented reality, artificial intelligence, translation in the future, audio, video enhancements. All of that stuff is in there. And rather than going into that depth right now, I'm going to advance forward a little bit to show you where that plays. So again, if I look at a Newline panel, and of course you have the peripherals, you have the screen and touch built into that, but when you add a computer on top, what you start to be able to take advantage of is the power of the compute and all of the other elements that come with that. So, first, it's an open software platform. You saw in Ellen's introduction that openness is critical to everything Newline does. You can run multi-OSs, you can basically browse on the internet, you can do video, you can do any application you want. So whether if you're in education, whether it's Houghton Mifflin digital content or Follett Books or Scholastic Education or John Wiley or anything like that, it's going to run on Intel. And you're going to know that Intel, because of our massive reach and developer scale, we've worked with all of those companies to make sure that they optimize their experience on Intel processors. So you're going to get the best experiences you can get with that. You're also going to get facilities, environmental control when you have a compute. So think about lighting, think about utilization rates for the room, think about temperature control, scheduling. All of that stuff can be done on the computer built into the machine. Virtualization, I kind of went with this when, multi-OS or security functionality, you can build on that also. So audio analytics, you're not seeing much of this right now, but this is where we're working towards in the future. We partner with Newline on some of this as well. So think about in the future where, say you're a class, and it's the current environment right now, and the teacher is recording a math class. It's all recorded. If I take that and automatically put that into voice to text, and if the child at night is going over math and he's like, oh my gosh, I want to see when the teacher was talking about quadratic equations, they could search for the quadratic equations and they could immediately advance to every single time the teacher said quadratic equations on the video. Keyword indexing everything that the teacher said. We're doing this now in China. This is something that we expect to see going forward. In an office space, think of context notes. Literally, you're going to do transcription of the meeting, and you're also going to do context notes, and even in the future, translation. So if you're having a phone call, a video call with someone out of China or someone out of Korea, you could be speaking in your language, and then you're going to be able to have subtitles with a translation. All of that stuff is coming. All of that stuff is something that we're working on. Newline is working on. It's not going to happen overnight, but these are the things that we're striving towards right now, and you'd be shocked how fast that technology is coming. So video analytics is another thing that we're absolutely working on. So think about, it could be in a corporation, it could be just auto attendance. So as soon as you walk into the room, it knows who you are. If it's your meeting, it could say, oh, wow, it's Chris or it's Ellen, and immediately set up the flat panel display to the conference that, Ellen or I was going to run. It can also do meeting effectiveness. Are people engaged in the meeting? Are they paying attention? So you have an idea at the end of the meeting, are you interested? We're using this in China for education. So in education in China, they do auto attendance. So they actually use the video or the camera on their flat panel display to take attendance, and they take attendance throughout the entire class. They use it to how many people are raising their hand. So they do behavior recognition with cameras. They also do it with kind of an anonymous fashion where the teacher gets feedback where it says, hey, 30% of your class was paying attention or 80% of your class was paying attention. And they can learn to increase their teaching methodology or pedagogy from that. So if a teacher has, at the end of a class, they say, wow, they were really, really captivated the first 30 minutes of class. But for whatever reason, the second half of the class, it kind of dropped off. Was that my content, or was that just the natural attention span of grade schoolers? Those are things you can learn as you harness the power of video analytics. And again, all of that is happening on a computer. Data analytics, utilization rates, all of that, how many people are using conference rooms. Conference rooms for a corporation are incredibly expensive to maintain. And people need to understand how are they being used, how many people are using them, because then a corporation can make decisions on their conference room space based upon all that data analytics. So the other things that are really happening, and this is happening right now, is audio enhancements. So we've all lived the video conferencing dream or nightmare over the last 6 months, whatever you want to call it. Quality audio is one of the absolutely critical things that makes or breaks a meeting. We are working with companies like Audio. So, the Newline display has a microphone array in there. They have to make sure that the noise cancellation works, the echo cancellation works, things like automatic gain control can work, and that it's optimized on Intel. Those are things that we're working on, and we're continuing to work on that. We actually have within our chips, we have DSP built into our chips, which is kind of something that's really, really good for audio pre-processing. So we're working with companies like Newline and audio companies or speaker or microphone companies to how to perfect that audio at the edge before we actually send it up to the cloud and transmit it across to another area. So massive improvements in audio over the next several years, and that's one of the key things we're working on. Video enhancements. So the one I always like to use is like, you're looking at me right now and I probably have like a shiny head and a shiny nose. One of the key things we find is that people want filters. Like everybody uses Instagram filters. We're building video filters so I can get rid of this shiny bald head and shiny nose. My hope is that in the future they can actually airbrush real time some hair on my head or something. But those are one of the key things that teachers always want. Like, oh my gosh, I don't like the way I look on camera. Let's get some filters. We're working on those filters. When you're in a conference room or a classroom, we're looking on, you can pan, you can zoom, you can crop. Lots of different things that we can do in a video enhancement. And all of those things are going to be happening. And those things are important to happen at the edge, on the computer, sitting on the display itself, before it goes into the cloud. Security and manageability. I've referenced this already. We focus on security from the hardware up, and then we work with the software ecosystem to make sure that they can build security into their solutions as well. As we produce more and more data and more of our world is in that data, we've got to continue to focus on security, and that's one of the things that we absolutely focus on. And again, portions of the compute go into driving that. Okay, so that was long-winded, but I just wanted to let you know that it's not just a simple display. There's a whole lot of technology that's packaged inside of that display, and all of that technology and from Newline is optimized in Intel because we work very closely with them from the ground up on how this is going to work, and we continue to do that as we go forward. So anyway, so one more tech slide here, and then I'll open it up for questions. So here is a little bit more illustrating like what portions of the CPU. So the bottom left is kind of a picture of a typical CPU. For those really tech geeks, it's not perfect, but we were just trying to show to you what are the features of a Newline platform and what areas of the CPU are they drawing from. So if you're looking at the smart camera, it uses the AI engine that sits within the GPU or the graphics processor unit. The audio system is going to use, of course, it's the I/O, which is how the audio is connected to the computer and speaks to the computer, but it's also using accelerators, kind of the bottom right there in that dark green. We have we have DSP built in it, so pre-processing for audio to make it better is going to be done in that area. Sensors are using artificial intelligence along with CPU. We have screen sharing, that's using CPU along with GPU. All of these things are, you could see with the color coding is what we've done. But again, it's just to highlight the fact that there's a lot of work being done behind the scenes to optimize the performance that you're experiencing with the Newline display. And we're going to continue as we move forward. And my guess is that as we're focused more on this, the future advancements that we see are going to be far more significant than the ones you've seen in the last 5 years. It's moving that rapidly. So expect to see some really, really fun changes over the next several years. And with that, I know I was fast and I didn't get interrupted by any questions. Kind of leave you with this note, which is one of our founders, and it's the way kind of Intel looks at it, is don't be encumbered by history. Go off and do something wonderful. That's what we try to do by partnering with customers like Newline, and hopefully Newline's partners as well can partner with them and do something wonderful as well. And with that, I would leave it to for question and answers if there's anything. Ellen or Marcos or anything, let me know. And Marcos and I are ready to answer questions.
All right, thank you, Chris. Yes, if anyone has any questions, go ahead and ask those in the Q&A or the chat feature, and we'll have Chris and Marcos get to those.
All righty.
All right, so one of the questions was ADA specs / tech built into the Newline board.
Marcos, I'm going to have to ask you to answer that question.
Hello, good morning. This is regarding Newline boards. We have a devices doing ADA spec. Ellen, can you, as a Newline, can you share that your support to ADA already?
I will. Unfortunately, I cannot answer that right now, but I am going to get some information from our sales team and our tech team and be able to get back to this person on that.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the ADAs. Are they talking about Americans with Disabilities Act? Or are they talking about something?
It's the American Disability.
Got it. Okay. So I mean, from a technology standpoint, there's nothing that would prevent us supporting that. But you know how Newline, this is more of a stylistic and design component from the Newline board. So what they're doing, you know, they can address that easier than we can. So on the Intel side, on the audio, so a couple things, and I can start, and then Marcos can correct me. So there's a lot of work that goes into audio. You know, for example, the mic arrays that would be in a Newline, you have to make sure that there's no, you know, there's echo cancellation and noise cancellation on that, and there's tricks that you could do to do that. Right now, a lot of that is actually happening on stuff that's run on our CPU. As we go forward, we're actually going to offload some of that to built-in DSPs in our chips, and DSPs are going to give you a lot more functionality. And at the same time, they're not going to use CPU cycles, so you can get a better experience on the CPU side or on your graphic side or on your video side. And the audio will be done separately at far less power and far less toll on the CPU, so your overall experience can be better. We're doing a lot there because we recognize audio is very critical to frankly any type of video conference or meeting.
And just to complement on the audio, sorry, it's not clear the question, but Newline product today support the audio DSP on the audio input. The next generation will be supported audio through USB or other devices using audio. We use the Intel accelerator there, that the new name is GNA. Okay, starting end of this year.
Got it. And then for Mike, I see the question on the future cameras. So again, Newline will have to answer some of this, but with our chips, it's going to work for integrated cameras. It's going to work for separate cameras added later. A lot of these expensive cameras also have intelligence built into them, you know, where they have actually their IP cameras. We can work with those as well. So, you know, the network that they're going to work with is very broad, and typically most of them should be optimized to take advantage of Intel specs. So Newline, it's a design figure from them as far as what cameras they integrate and whether they allow external cameras or not. But there's nothing in the Intel compute on that would prohibit any selection that you want.
And I can chime in a little bit more and help answer that from the Newline side and even from the industry side. So from the camera integration standpoint, yes, there are products in the works and or already existing that have integrated cameras. One of the things and directions we are seemingly taking is more of a modular approach, where cameras are included but can be removed when they don't want them, but they look seamlessly connected, not necessarily just externally attached. So that will be somewhat the future, at least from the Newline camp, is more of a modular approach, where we'll be able to remove and or add cameras to any of our displays. They will have that seamless integration as far as the way they work and operate, but you will have the ability to pick and choose if you want camera A, B, or C, what kind of hardware specs you want on the camera, and so forth.
Got it. And then for Bill, for your question, for where does a teacher go to learn ways to teach his or her visual learners? So this is an area that's rapidly advancing right now. My guess is, and it was referenced in the beginning, that Newline probably has a lot of professional development to teach people how to take advantage of these tools, because there's a lot of tools built into the display that allows you to extract some of that. But it's also from a software standpoint and from a learning standpoint, you're seeing all of the traditional educational publishers starting to drive much better visual content. You know, when it first started digital, and I hate to say this, but they more or less took a printer and copied what they had in their teacher material and copied student material and then put it online. It didn't take advantage of the interactive capabilities of displays. It didn't take advantage of graphics. What you're finding now is that there's so many different educational providers out there, and they're putting the pressure on these educational houses and making the content significantly better. There's millions and millions of curated educational videos out there that you can do. There's things like Google Classroom, which, you know, integrates well with Newline, integrates well with Intel, where you can go out and find, you know, tons of content. Google's also very active in teaching you how to use that content. So I think there's a little bit of a gulf right now, but there's a lot of training happening right now to really teach people how to use this training as you go forward. Newline, I'm sure Newline could add a lot more because this is going to be critical. They're big in education as well too, but I realize that that is a problem right now, and it's absolutely happening. The other thing that, from an Intel standpoint is, we're working on how do we improve the whole experience. So we're working on how could we help a teacher, like, make it very easy to video record themselves. So if they're teaching online, how do they make a video and post the video to the cloud very easily? How do they make it more engaging? So things like that to simplify video. And also, how do you make it easy to digitize your content? So if you have 20 years experience making really, really good content for in-class, how do I take that and integrate it onto slides, PowerPoints, and make it something dynamic? You're seeing a lot of tools being developed to make that right now. So I think right now is a little bit of an uncomfortable stage, but the training is following very quickly. And the longer we're kind of in this COVID environment, the more rapid you're going to see that happening. Digitizing of content is happening extremely fast right now. I wasn't sure of the question of regarding the ADAs and decoding text. And okay, so you're thinking. So Marcos, you want to answer this one?
Yep. Yes. So we support others. Okay, they Intel develop it. We need to need to understand if you have application that can using it. Okay, we can decode and test synchronous video and audio. We have the TSN synchronization inside the chip to do the video and audio synchronization as well. Okay, to adjust the video. As Newline is an open platform, I need to understand the applications you are using. Okay, Intel as a CPU, we support it. We have all the tools to synchronize the audio and video. Okay, including the adjust. We need to understand how the platform, the software that you'd like to use to take advantage of it. And the next one, talk about the Intel does wireless casting, okay, of the chip. I understand that you are trying to do wireless display or sharing your display from phones or others. We support it. For example, Newline solution, when they have the OPS, we have the wireless. If you use it, they have a Intel wireless card. You can do things Miracast, or you can do wireless display, or you can use the Intel Unite tool and doing the wireless display.
And for that as well, there's multiple different solutions out there for screen sharing. In Intel, there's kind of an open source platform called WebRTC, and Intel supports that. We have what we call a software development kit that enables all these software vendors to take advantage of it and optimize that screen sharing in Intel. So there's lots of different companies that build variations on that platform, but we work very, very closely with the software vendor ecosystem to make sure that that's optimized as well. And Newline would do the same thing, because screen sharing is one of the key things to make sure that the student can share devices, share their screen on the screen. The teacher, can do vice versa. So it's critical. So we absolutely support that and are constantly looking for ways to make that better as well.
Yeah, well, just to complement one thing that's interesting on the Newline product, using the Intel Wi-Fi modules, you can using the Wi-Fi modules as a client, so to connect to the internet, but you can using the IFPD as a Wi-Fi access point. So we're supporting, if you have the right software, you can using the IFPD as one of the access point for share content. Okay.
Got it. And then as far as the microphone array with noise cancellation, so I'll answer a little bit and then I'll get myself in trouble, and Marcos will probably have to save me. But when you have multiple microphones, for example, if any of those microphones are off on timing, you're going to have multiple echoes and things like that. So you have to time sync all of the microphones to make sure that you can cancel the noise out. Then there's different technologies that you use to manage echo. Going forward, there's a lot of things that we can do it, but the basic ones that we reference are just things that we're doing now. And Marcos, do you want to save me from that one, or do you want to elaborate further?
I just share what's the products available today. Today, we have a microphone array integrated in the IFPDs around the world, going up to 60 microphones, normally for small and medium size. In the microphone technology evolve, so we have a virtual microphones, because if you want to capture people looking to the back or looking to the front, and the remote people can hear clearly, there are some virtual mics technology that we can use, and we can synchronize to the CPU to make easy to remove. Answer size of the room based on the microphone array or number of microphones is not an easy answer, because it be based on the how much noise you have, what is the architecture from the form of this room, square, what's the wood, what's the roof, all these echo. So we don't have a clear one. We have just a guidance. If you're looking for corporate meeting rooms, normally we're using the microphone integrated for radio rooms and small rooms. If you go for medium rooms, normally you have different microphones in the table, and larger rooms we have multiple microphones.
Yeah, and just
for
to elaborate,
capturing video,
I can step in. So audio is obviously critical. So when you're designing or you're outfitting a room with audio, one of the things you have to keep in mind is, what level of audio. So if it's a simple, what we call huddle room or collaboration room, which is kind of an ad hoc meeting space, I think everything that you get with Newline is going to be more than sufficient. If you're at an executive boardroom where you're doing earnings announcements, or you're having very, very high level executives and you need absolutely crystal clear, perfect audio, then you start to look into external audio solutions, with DSP and things. But some of those microphones are going to cost $5,000, and that's just for the microphone and the integration of the microphone, sometimes even more than that. Those things are like, 2,000 synthesizable DSP cores. You don't want that for your standard 6-person office room. So our goal was to make the microphone array that was on a Newline and that you can use with our chips to serve about 80% of the use cases. But for those 20%, auditorium functionality, stadium functionalities, executive boardrooms and things like that, you're going to probably want to look into the very, very expensive pro audio and video solutions out there. But again, you're not going to install thousands of those. Those are limited and very selective when you install those.
Great. Next question for Intel. In terms of the analytics video audio data, where would we find information about the research and use analytics on your website? Okay, answer this question. Our tool, okay, for all the analytics we call OpenVino. If you go intel.com/OpenVino, we have all the tools and research and the sample codes too. Okay, so you can download the code and run on CPU inside Intel on CPU or GPU. You can offload the analytics in multiple IPs inside the silicon to see what's more relevant for you. And we have all the TensorFlow or all the CNN and examples, people detection, behavior, object. All these examples are available there.
So
it's
just
OpenVino.
Yeah, and just to let you know, that's a OpenVino is going to be technical. So we do that. You wouldn't go download productizable solutions from that. We build base level models, but the expectation is that software vendors will take that, use that to optimize on Intel, and then they can build something that's going to be productizable that you could again purchase. Now, what we do, and we referenced it now that we focus vertically, for education, that might be something where we're not educators. So we have to work with educators and have teachers tell us what would be important in a classroom. In the US and Europe, unlikely that we're going to use it for attendance, but it may be important for mood sensing. Are the people engaged? Are the students engaged? Are they standing? Are they cheating? Things like that. Those are things that we actually are looking for feedback and say, what, this would actually be helpful for a teacher. And then what we could do is maybe build some base level functionality that other software vendors, and we have a massive software vendor ecosystem, could take advantage of and build out solutions on that. So that's actually an area of some interest to us, because we're trying to figure out what teachers would want in their class from both an audio and a video analytics standpoint, because we can then start to build solutions for that. But you're not going to buy those solutions from Intel. You'll buy them from our software ecosystem.
Great. The next one is about Unite. Can you share about the product?
So Intel Unite is a platform, and Newline has some platforms that offer Intel Unite. It is a very robust screen sharing platform with a lot of IT functionality built into it, a lot of education use cases as well. It's offered free from an Intel solution if you have a Core i5 or Core i7 solution, but if you have something less than that, it's not going to be a product that's offered. It's built on a WebRTC base. So it's an open source base that we've just put a kind of a nice platform on top of it. Newline would, probably partners with multiple people that offer similar things as well, all built on that WebRTC base. I don't know if anybody from Newline wants to answer further, but it's certainly something that's relevant to corporation. It's relevant to classroom experience as well, and I'm sure they have multiple offerings for it.
And let me just share a little bit. Unite, Intel offer Unite. Unite is our collaboration screen. You can share your screen with phones, and we support all the OSs from the client side. So the Newline IFPD will be the Unite hub. So if you're using Unite hub, any any employee that go in the room or in the classroom, they can automatically connect it and share content. Intel Unite offers some manageability for the teacher. We call the teacher can control, or the meeting room, the owner of the room, the meeting can control and say, oh, person A or student 1, student 2, you can share your content in the big screen. So we have the moderator. That's the name that we use for Intel Unite. So we can have a one-person moderator, a teacher or the meeting owner, allowed to share content there. Okay, so the idea is easy to use. Unite offer a lot of plugins from the market, ISVs, that can offer whiteboarding application, painting application that you can push as a plugin on Intel Unite. Okay.
Okay, and it looks like we've run out of questions here. So just so let you know, and anyone from Newline, if you get any follow-up email questions or anything like that, let either Marcos or I know, and we could answer the questions for you without a problem.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
No problem.
Thanks, Chris and Marcos.
No problem, Ty.
And
So
thank you all that are still remaining. We appreciate the time, and hopefully you got a lot out of the experience and learning a little bit more about the partnership between Newline and Intel, and the future of microprocessing and its effects on interactive displays.
Great, and hopefully I'll be able to see people face to face next time. I actually enjoy presenting more when I can stand up, walk around, and be very animated with gestures. So hopefully at some point in the future, we'll be able to do that again.
Absolutely.
Okay, so with that, I guess we can exit. And again, for the Newline team, thank you very much for the opportunity. It was great.
Before exiting, we do have to announce our grand prize winner of the door prize, well, virtual door prize that we have. So thank you all to our attendees who showed up today. I know it was not just for the prize, it was for the great content that was presented by our Intel partners. But we did randomly select Joe Pilgrim as our winner, and you will be receiving an Amazon Echo Show 10.1 inch. And so you'll be receiving an email about that so we can get that sent to you. But thank you all for attending today, and we hope to see you next time on our next webinar.